Alright, so I'm super late on this one. Shout outs to my boy Bocce for even reminding me that this was on. Um, Wanted to give you a quick prediction on Castano versus Charlo 2. First and foremost, before I say anything about this fight coming up, I thought Castano won the first fight. I thought it was pretty clear. I very rarely use the word robbery. I'll tell you I disagree. I'll say, like, they had so and so winning the fight. I had so and so winning the fight. And then I'll reply with, but it was close. This shit to me wasn't really close. I don't remember, off the top of my head what I scored it, but I clearly had Castano winning to the point where I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Like, that was one. Fury Wilder one was another one. De La Hoya Trinidad. There are a couple that I'm like, bro, come on. Like, that's just a bad decision. There's others, like Bradley Pacquiao won, Kovalev Ward won. Those fights, to me, you could argue, you could disagree. It was a close fight, yada yada. I wouldn't call any of those fights robberies. You could disagree slightly, but I thought those were I don't call a close fight a robbery. If I think this guy won 7-5, you think this guy won 7-5. To me, that's not a robbery. That's a close fight that the judges, saw a round here or there differently, or whatever the case is. Which, in some fights, you have fights where they wind up being 9-3, 10-2, but every single one of those 12 rounds was close. So it's like, on the scorecards is not close, but it was a competitive fight. So I thought Castano clearly won the fight. I thought Castano fought a near perfect fight, and I mean that in the sense that, like, we all know. I mean, like, Charlo is a bigger name and more in the forefront and in your face than the dude Castano is, but we know what Charlo does. Like, we know Charlo can punch. Certain things about certain people. Castano, to me, like, I knew some things about him, but I didn't know as much about him as I knew about Charlo, because Charlo's always in my face. And just to be clear, I don't like either of the Charlo brothers at all. So I don't want anybody to think I'm being biased or anything here. Castano went in, and I thought that he did. Like I said, he fought like a near perfect fight. He had a handful of mistakes. He got caught twice. He got hurt twice. But other than that, outside of that, I thought he mostly dominated the fight. For this fight, I'm picking Charlo in the rematch, and I'm actually picking Charlo to stop him. Um, Love or hate the Charlo brothers, I'm not really going to sit here and say that they can't fight or they suck or whatever the case is. I think if and I don't want to call it a fluke that Castano won, but I think it was one of those things where it was like a really tough fight to win, and he came in and he did it, and they didn't give it to him, and it's like, can he be that perfect again? I actually was worried about that with the Fury shit as well, where it was like, man, here's a guy that's knocked out everybody he's ever fought. This guy goes in there, fights a damn near perfect fight, still gets caught, peels himself off the canvas, and then gets robbed of a fucking fight that he should have won. And it's like, can it really go that perfectly again? Can he go another 12 without getting tagged? But we all know that Fury changed his game plan, and since Fury has showed that he can change his game plan and adjust to different people, and he can box, he can move, he can feint, he can jab, he can come forward, he can do all different things. So at this point, nothing Fury does seems like a fluke or an upset anymore, or where I'm worried that he's got to be perfect. Castano still, to me, has to prove that, where it's like, if he comes in there again and does the same shit tonight, and if I haven't said this already, my apologies for being late on this, but I was just reminded about it last night in the middle of the night. But if he comes in there and fights the same way again and does the same shit to Charlo, maybe even worse, or hurts him or stops him or gets the decision this time, or whatever the case is, then I'll have to say, oh, okay. I mean, yeah, I'm putting this dude on a new level now than he is in my head right now. To me, right now, he's a very, very good fighter, and he did win that first fight. But I don't know, man. I just feel like Charlo's going to find a way to get revenge tonight. I think Charlo needs to be a little bit busier. Um, I thought to me, what it looked like was Charlo came in with a particular game plan that he was sure was going to work. And when it wasn't working, I don't know if I want to say he didn't know what to do, but he didn't do anything else. There was no adjustment made from Charlo where I was like, at some point in the fight where I saw something where I was like, okay, the fight's turning. There were moments where the fight seemed to turn because Charlo landed a big shot and Castano got hurt. But Charlo never really able to take back over the fight. It's not like Castano dominated the first 7 or 8 and then Charlo dominated the back 4 and it's like, okay, he figured something out and he's going to bring it into this fight. It wasn't really a case like that. I just think that I don't, and this could be a little bias of me because I was more of a come forward guy and I'm looking to hurt you guy than I was trying to box and outpoint somebody. So to me, when I'm watching something and somebody keeps getting hurt, the more that those people fight, the more I'm gonna favor the big puncher because in my opinion, and this depends on your skill level, right? If we're talking about a Floyd Mayweather, I'm probably never going to pick the hard puncher over a Mayweather because it's Mayweather and he adjusts and he finds ways to make the power puncher, the fact that he's throwing heavy shots, he finds a way to make that to their disadvantage. But the point that I'm trying to make is unless it's a guy like a Mayweather or somebody like that, when I see one guy hurting the other guy relatively regularly, and I don't mean regularly as in the point that he hurt him every round and every time he touched him he hurt him, but I'm just saying Charlo wasn't doing great in that fight. But when he landed clean, Castano seemed to have trouble taking it. So I can't get my fucking shoe back on here. So when I see that, when I see something where I know, and this is not to say that Charlo wasn't hurt at all in the fight, but I know for sure going into this rematch, Charlo can hurt and can stop Castano. Like that's a very real possibility. It almost happened in the first one more than once. When I see that more than once in a fight, and then those guys fight a second time, or those guys fight a third time, or whatever the case is, each passing fight, I lean more and more towards the puncher because I just feel like, it's like throwing darts at a bullseye. If you say to me, I'll give you $1,000, I'm going to give you one shot. You hit the bullseye, $1,000, right? Shit. All right, I got to be perfect once here, right? But on any way that you flip that, the odds have to change. If you say, here's a dart, I'll give you $1,000 if you hit the bullseye, and you give me no limit, I'm going to hit the bullseye at some point. I may hit it in my 5th throw. I may hit it in 5 days or 5 weeks. But I'm going to hit the bullseye at some point. So it's like the longer you keep letting this guy throw these shots like this, and again, let's not pretend like Charlo's not a good boxer or not a good fighter. This is not a brawler that's just going to go out there and swing randomly, and I'm sitting here saying, oh, he's going to get lucky and land one. Charlo's a great fighter, bro, even though I don't like him. And I just feel like, how many times can you give him the shot at the bullseye? He's going to hit it eventually. And on the flip side of that, right? Like, if you say to me, you have to hit the bullseye every time, and I'll give you $1,000. All right, how many times do I got to shoot it? Once? All right, I got a 50-50 shot, right? I hit it, bang, $1,000. But what about I hit it, and you go, all right, you got to hit it every time for the rest of your life. You got to take a shot every day and hit it every time. And it's like, I'm going to miss eventually. You know what I mean? Whether it's the second shot or it's the 2000th day and it's years later, I'm going to miss eventually. It's the same shit. So it's like, I just lean toward Charlo in this one, man. There's really not much more to it than the fact that I just think that the way that Charlo is, the athlete that Charlo is, the competitor that Charlo is, he wants this win. That's not to say that Castano doesn't, but I don't know, man. This one, honestly, this one is more of a vibe and a gut feeling that I have, more than me being able to sit here and break down to you exactly how I think this is going to happen. But I just don't think that Castano is going to be able to escape on points the way that he did last time. And just to clarify, my last prediction video was completely wrong. I would love to be completely wrong in this one because I am not a fucking fan of the Charlos, so I really want to see Castano win this fight tonight, just for the record. But yeah, man, I think Charlo stops him. I'm gonna say Charlo stops him in like the 6th or 7th round or something like that, right around the middle. Um, I just think that he's gonna catch him at some point, and I don't think either. I think this is ridiculous that Charlo thinks he won that fight. But let's just play devil's advocate and say Charlo does think he won that fight. There's no way Charlo's letting this guy get off the hook when he hurts him again this time. It's like, do you want to let them rob you again? So, I don't know, man. I got Charlo by stoppage. I'm picking the middle rounds just to try to be ridiculous and, you know, hit the nail right on the head. But I don't really know. I just think Charlo's going to stop him. But I'll say six or seven just to make an accurate prediction there.